The bread you choose after 60 determines whether your muscles get the sustained energy and nutrients they need to rebuild, or whether you're spiking your blood sugar, promoting inflammation, and actually accelerating muscle loss. Most seniors eat bread daily without realizing that certain breads actively work against muscle building, while others provide powerful support for maintaining strength and independence. I'm Dr. Thomas Reed, and what I'm about to share will completely change how you shop for bread. The difference between the best and worst breads isn't just about whole grain versus white. It's about protein content, fiber density, blood sugar response, nutrient profile, and whether the bread provides sustained energy that supports muscle function or creates metabolic chaos that promotes muscle breakdown. Let me start with the 5 best breads for muscle building after 60, ranked from best to 5th best. Then I'll expose the 5 worst breads that millions of seniors eat daily, thinking they're making healthy choices when they're actually sabotaging their muscle health. The number 1 absolute best bread for muscle building after 60 is sprouted grain bread, specifically brands like Ezekiel bread, or any bread made from sprouted whole grains. Sprouted grain bread is made from whole grains that have been allowed to germinate before being ground and baked. This sprouting process transforms the nutritional profile in remarkable ways that specifically support muscle building. Let me explain what happens during sprouting. When a grain kernel is soaked in water, it begins to germinate. The seed activates enzymes that break down some of the starches into simpler sugars to fuel the growing plant. These same enzymes break down anti-nutrients like phytic acid that normally bind to minerals and prevent their absorption. The sprouting process increases protein availability, increases vitamin content, and makes the grain dramatically easier to digest. The protein content of sprouted grain bread is exceptional for bread. Most regular whole wheat bread provides about 3 to 4 grams of protein per slice. Sprouted grain bread typically provides 5 to 6 grams per slice. This is a 50% increase in protein content. 2 slices provide 10 to 12 grams of protein, which is equivalent to nearly 2 eggs. But the protein in sprouted grain bread isn't just more abundant, it's more complete. The sprouting process increases the availability of amino acids, particularly lysine, which is the limiting amino acid in most grains. While sprouted grain bread still doesn't provide a complete protein on its own, it's much closer to complete than regular bread. When combined with other protein sources like eggs, cheese, nut butter, or beans, you're getting comprehensive amino acid coverage. The fiber content is exceptional, typically 5 to 6 grams per slice compared to 2 to 3 grams in regular whole wheat bread. This fiber slows digestion, creating sustained energy release rather than blood sugar spikes. Sustained energy supports muscle function throughout the day. Blood sugar spikes followed by crashes create hormonal chaos that promotes muscle breakdown. The glycemic index of sprouted grain bread is lower than regular whole wheat bread. The glycemic index measures how quickly a food raises blood sugar. Lower is better for sustained energy and muscle preservation. Regular whole wheat bread has a glycemic index around 65 to 70. Sprouted grain bread is typically around 45 to 50. This lower response means more stable blood sugar, less insulin release, and better metabolic conditions for muscle building. The mineral availability is dramatically better due to reduced phytic acid. Iron, zinc, magnesium, and calcium are all more bioavailable from sprouted grains. These minerals are crucial for muscle function. Magnesium is involved in muscle contraction and energy production. Zinc supports protein synthesis and immune function. Iron carries oxygen to muscles. The sprouting process makes these minerals 2 to 3 times more absorbable. The taste and texture of sprouted grain bread is different from regular bread. It's denser and more substantial. The texture is moist and slightly chewy. The flavor is slightly sweet and nutty. Some people love it immediately. Others need time to adjust. But the nutritional superiority makes any adjustment period worthwhile. Sprouted grain bread typically requires refrigeration or freezing, because it contains no preservatives. The ingredients are simply sprouted grains, water, salt, and sometimes honey or other natural sweeteners. This means you need to plan ahead and keep it frozen, taking out slices as needed. The extra effort is minor compared to the muscle-building benefits. Use sprouted grain bread for toast topped with eggs, avocado, nut butter, or cottage cheese. Make sandwiches with protein-rich fillings like tuna salad, chicken, or hummus. The combination of the bread's protein and fiber with additional protein sources creates optimal muscle-building meals. The number 2 best bread for muscle building is whole-grain sourdough bread. Real sourdough is made through a fermentation process using wild yeast and bacteria. This fermentation, like sprouting, transforms the grain in ways that support muscle health. The fermentation process breaks down some of the gluten, making the bread easier to digest. Many people who struggle with regular bread find they tolerate sourdough better. The fermentation also breaks down phytic acid, similar to sprouting, making minerals more bioavailable. Iron, zinc, and magnesium absorption is significantly improved. Sourdough fermentation produces organic acids that lower the bread's glycemic index. Whole grain sourdough has a glycemic index around 50 to 55, lower than regular whole grain bread. This means more stable blood sugar and sustained energy release. The organic acids also support gut health by feeding beneficial bacteria. The protein content of whole grain sourdough is similar to regular whole grain bread, about 4 grams per slice. While not as high as sprouted grain bread, it's still reasonable. The key advantage is the improved digestibility and mineral availability. You're getting more nutritional value from the protein and nutrients that are present. The flavor of sourdough is distinctive and complex, with a pleasant tanginess from the fermentation. Many people prefer this flavor to regular bread. The texture is typically chewy with a crisp crust and tender interior. The substantial texture makes it satisfying and filling. Real sourdough takes time to make, which is why commercial sourdough is often more expensive than regular bread. But you're paying for superior nutrition and traditional preparation methods. Look for sourdough with minimal ingredients: whole grain flour, water, salt, and sourdough starter. Avoid sourdoughs that list commercial yeast or many additives. Those aren't true fermented sourdoughs. Use whole grain sourdough the same ways as sprouted grain bread. Toast it for breakfast. Make sandwiches. Serve it alongside protein-rich soups or stews. The combination of sustained energy, improved mineral absorption, and gut health support makes sourdough exceptional for supporting muscle building. The number 3 best bread is whole grain pumpernickel bread. Traditional pumpernickel is made from coarsely ground rye flour, often combined with whole rye kernels. The bread is baked at low temperature for many hours, sometimes 12 to 24 hours. This long, slow baking caramelizes natural sugars and creates the characteristic dark color and rich flavor. Rye flour has a different protein structure than wheat. The proteins in rye don't form gluten in the same way, resulting in denser bread. This density is actually beneficial because it slows digestion even further. Pumpernickel has one of the lowest glycemic indices of any bread, typically around 40 to 45. This means extremely stable blood sugar and sustained energy. The fiber content is exceptional, often 6 to 8 grams per slice. This is higher than most other breads. The fiber comes from the whole rye kernels and the coarse grinding that leaves more of the grain intact. This fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria and slows carbohydrate absorption dramatically. The protein content is moderate, about 4 grams per slice, similar to whole wheat bread. But the unique advantage of pumpernickel is the sustained energy release. For seniors who need stable blood sugar to support consistent energy for movement and activity throughout the day, pumpernickel is exceptional. Rye also contains unique phytonutrients including lignans, which have antioxidant properties. These compounds reduce inflammation, which indirectly supports muscle health by reducing the inflammatory signals that promote muscle breakdown. The flavor of pumpernickel is distinctive, earthy, and slightly sweet. Some people love it. Others find it too assertive. But for those who enjoy the flavor, pumpernickel provides exceptional nutritional benefits. The dense, moist texture is satisfying and filling. Use pumpernickel for open-faced sandwiches topped with protein sources. The traditional Scandinavian and German approach is to top pumpernickel with fish, cheese, eggs, or meat, creating a substantial meal on a single slice. The density of the bread means one slice is often sufficient. The number 4 best bread is seeded whole grain bread, specifically breads loaded with seeds like flax, chia, sunflower, pumpkin, and sesame seeds. These seeds add protein, healthy fats, fiber, and minerals that specifically support muscle health. Flax seeds are particularly valuable. They're high in omega-3 fatty acids, which reduce inflammation. They contain lignans, which have antioxidant properties. Ground flax seeds in bread provide fiber that supports gut health and blood sugar control. 2 tablespoons of flax seeds add about 4 grams of protein and 3 grams of fiber. Chia seeds provide protein, fiber, and omega-3 fatty acids. They absorb water and form a gel that slows digestion even further. This creates sustained energy release and improved satiety. Chia seeds add about 2 grams of protein per tablespoon. Sunflower seeds provide protein, vitamin E, magnesium, and selenium. Vitamin E is an antioxidant that protects cell membranes. Magnesium supports muscle contraction. Selenium supports thyroid function and immune health. Sunflower seeds add about 3 grams of protein per 2 tablespoons. Pumpkin seeds provide protein, zinc, magnesium, and iron. Zinc is crucial for protein synthesis and immune function. The combination of these minerals supports muscle building. Pumpkin seeds add about 5 grams of protein per 2 tablespoons. Sesame seeds provide protein, calcium, magnesium, and copper. The calcium supports both bone health and muscle contraction. Sesame seeds add about 3 grams of protein per 2 tablespoons. A bread heavily seeded with multiple seed types can provide 6 to 8 grams of protein per slice, rivaling sprouted grain bread. The healthy fats from the seeds provide concentrated calories, which is beneficial for seniors who struggle to eat enough total calories. The fiber from the seeds adds to the bread's fiber content, creating even better blood sugar control. The texture of seeded bread is interesting and varied, with different crunches and flavors from the various seeds. Many people find this texture more satisfying than plain bread. The nutty flavors from the seeds add complexity. Look for seeded breads where seeds are mixed throughout the dough, not just sprinkled on top. You want seeds in every bite for maximum nutritional benefit. The ingredient list should show whole grain flour as the first ingredient, with multiple seeds listed prominently. Use seeded whole grain bread for toast with protein toppings, for sandwiches, or simply eaten alongside meals to add protein, healthy fats, and sustained energy to your overall nutrition. The number 5 best bread is whole grain, oat bread made with substantial amounts of oats. Oats are unique among grains in their protein content and their specific benefits for heart health and blood sugar control. Bread made with significant oat content brings these benefits in bread form. Oats contain beta-glucan, a type of soluble fiber that reduces cholesterol and improves blood sugar control. When you eat oat bread, you're getting these cardiovascular and metabolic benefits alongside the sustained energy needed for muscle function. The protein content of whole grain oat bread is typically 5 grams per slice, higher than regular whole wheat bread. Oats naturally contain more protein than wheat, and they have a better amino acid balance with more lysine. This makes oat bread closer to a complete protein than wheat bread. Oats are particularly rich in manganese, providing over 30% of daily needs per serving. Manganese is a cofactor for enzymes involved in energy production and antioxidant defense in muscle cells. The magnesium, phosphorus, and iron content of oats also support muscle function. The texture of oat bread is typically soft and slightly dense, with a pleasant mild sweetness. The flavor is gentle and appealing to most people. Oat bread often stays moist longer than wheat bread, making it less likely to become dry and stale quickly. Look for oat bread where oats or oat flour is listed as the first or second ingredient. Some breads claim to be oat bread but contain mostly wheat with minimal oats. You want substantial oat content for maximum benefit. Use oat bread for all the same purposes as other whole grain breads. The mild flavor makes it particularly good for sandwiches where you don't want the bread to overpower other flavors. Now let me reveal the 5 worst breads for muscle building after 60. These breads actively work against your muscle building goals through poor nutritional profiles, blood sugar spikes, and inflammatory ingredients. The number 1 absolute worst bread for muscle building is white bread made from refined flour with added sugars and preservatives. This includes standard sandwich bread, hot dog buns, hamburger buns, and most commercially produced white bread. This bread is nutritionally bankrupt and metabolically damaging. White bread is made from wheat flour that has had the bran and germ removed, leaving only the starchy endosperm. This removes nearly all the fiber, vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. What remains is essentially pure starch with minimal nutritional value. The protein content is about 2 grams per slice, less than half what you get from whole grain breads. The fiber content is typically less than 1 gram per slice, meaning essentially no fiber. Without fiber to slow digestion, the starches are rapidly converted to glucose, causing blood sugar to spike dramatically. The glycemic index of white bread is typically 75 to 85, among the highest of any food. This is actually higher than pure sugar. When you eat white bread, your blood sugar skyrockets. Your pancreas responds by releasing massive amounts of insulin. This insulin drives glucose into cells rapidly, often overshooting and causing blood sugar to crash below baseline. This blood sugar roller coaster creates multiple problems for muscle building. First, the insulin spike promotes fat storage rather than muscle building. Insulin is a storage hormone. In the presence of high insulin, your body preferentially stores calories as fat rather than using them for muscle building. Second, the blood sugar crash that follows creates cortisol release. Cortisol is a stress hormone that promotes muscle protein breakdown. When blood sugar drops, your body perceives this as stress and releases cortisol to mobilize glucose from stored sources including muscle tissue. Chronic cortisol elevation from repeated blood sugar crashes accelerates muscle loss. Third, the lack of sustained energy means you feel tired and weak hours after eating. This reduces your physical activity and exercise capacity. Less movement means less stimulus for muscle maintenance. The metabolic chaos from white bread indirectly promotes sedentary behavior. Fourth, many commercial white breads contain added sugars, high fructose corn syrup, and various preservatives and emulsifiers. These additives contribute to inflammation, disrupt gut bacteria, and provide no nutritional benefit. They're included purely to improve shelf life and taste appeal, not health. The mineral and vitamin content of white bread is minimal. Even though manufacturers add back some synthetic vitamins in what they call enrichment, this doesn't replace the dozens of beneficial compounds that were removed with the bran and germ. You're getting a nutritionally empty food that provides calories without meaningful nutrition. If you're eating white bread regularly, you're consuming empty calories that spike blood sugar, promote fat storage, elevate cortisol, reduce sustained energy, and provide essentially no protein, fiber, or micronutrients. This is the opposite of what your muscles need. Every slice of white bread is a missed opportunity to eat something that actually supports your health. The number 2 worst bread is wheat bread that's actually made from refined flour with caramel coloring added to make it look brown. Many people buy what they think is whole wheat bread based on the brown color, not realizing they're getting essentially white bread with food coloring. These deceptive breads are labeled as wheat bread without the word whole. Legally, this allows manufacturers to use refined wheat flour and still call it wheat bread because wheat is the grain source. But refined wheat flour is nutritionally similar to white flour. The brown color comes from added caramel color or molasses, not from whole wheat. The nutritional profile is barely better than white bread. The protein content is about 2 to 3 grams per slice. The fiber content is about 1 gram per slice. The glycemic index is similar to white bread, around 70 to 80. You're getting minimal nutritional benefit while thinking you're making a healthy choice. This deception is particularly harmful because it prevents people from actually choosing nutritious breads. They think they're eating whole wheat when they're not. They wonder why they're not feeling better or building muscle, not realizing their bread choice is part of the problem. Read ingredient labels carefully. The first ingredient should be whole wheat flour or whole grain flour, not wheat flour or enriched flour. These latter terms indicate refined flour. Don't be fooled by brown color. Manufacturers know consumers associate brown with healthy, so they add coloring to make refined breads look whole grain. The number 3 worst bread is any bread made with enriched flour as the primary ingredient, even if it contains some whole grains. Many breads are marketed as containing whole grains but list enriched flour first, meaning the bread is primarily refined flour with some whole grain added for marketing purposes. These hybrid breads provide marginally better nutrition than pure white bread, but are still far from optimal. The protein content might be 3 grams per slice. The fiber might be 2 grams. The glycemic index is still elevated, around 65 to 70. You're getting some benefit from the whole grain content, but the refined flour still dominates. The problem is that these breads often have health claims on the package, made with whole grains, or contains 10 grams of whole grains per serving. These claims are technically true but misleading. The bread might contain 10 grams of whole grains but 30 grams of refined flour. The majority is still refined. These breads create confusion and prevent people from choosing truly nutritious options. They think they're eating well because the marketing says whole grains, but the ingredient list tells the real story. Always read ingredients, not marketing claims. The number 4 worst bread is breads with added sugars and sweeteners, particularly those with high fructose corn syrup. Many commercial breads contain surprising amounts of added sugar to improve taste and shelf life. Some contain 3 to 5 grams of added sugar per slice, which is more than many cookies. Added sugars compound the blood sugar problems of refined flour. You're getting rapid glucose absorption from refined starch plus additional sugar, creating an even more dramatic blood sugar spike. The metabolic disruption is significant. Excessive sugar consumption is linked to increased inflammation throughout the body. Inflammation is a primary driver of muscle loss. By eating high-sugar bread, you're actively promoting the inflammatory environment that causes your muscles to break down. Added sugars also contribute to insulin resistance over time. When your cells are constantly exposed to high insulin levels from sugar consumption, they become less responsive to insulin. This insulin resistance impairs your muscles' ability to take up amino acids and glucose, directly interfering with muscle building. Check ingredient lists for sugars. They appear under many names: sugar, high fructose corn syrup, honey, molasses, brown rice syrup, dextrose, maltose, and many others. If any of these appear in the first few ingredients, the bread contains significant added sugar. The number 5 worst bread is gluten-free breads made from refined starches like white rice flour, potato starch, and tapioca starch. Now, if you have celiac disease or confirmed gluten sensitivity, you must avoid gluten. But for people without these conditions who choose gluten-free bread, thinking it's healthier, you're often getting nutritionally inferior bread. Many gluten-free breads are made from refined starches that are rapidly digested and spike blood sugar even more dramatically than wheat flour. White rice flour has a higher glycemic index than whole wheat flour. Potato starch and tapioca starch are essentially pure starch with minimal nutrition. The protein content of most gluten-free breads is very low, often 1 to 2 grams per slice. Gluten is itself a protein, so when you remove gluten, you remove protein unless it's replaced with other protein sources. Most manufacturers don't adequately replace it. The fiber content is typically low unless manufacturers add fiber supplements. Natural fiber from whole grains is absent. The mineral and vitamin content is minimal. Many gluten-free breads are nutritionally empty vehicles for calories. The texture of many gluten-free breads is also poor, crumbly, and dry because gluten provides the structure that makes bread chewy and cohesive. Without gluten, manufacturers add gums and starches to try to replicate this structure, but the result is often unsatisfying. Some gluten-free breads are made from nutritious ingredients like whole grain brown rice, quinoa, millet, or buckwheat. These are fine. But read ingredients carefully. If the first ingredients are white rice flour, potato starch, and tapioca starch, you're getting nutritionally empty bread at premium prices. For people who must avoid gluten, look for gluten-free breads made from whole grain gluten-free flours like brown rice, quinoa, or millet, and that includes seeds or legume flours for protein. These provide better nutrition than refined starch versions. Now let me explain why bread choice matters specifically for muscle building after 60. Bread is a staple food for most people. You probably eat bread daily, perhaps multiple times per day. If every piece of bread you eat provides minimal protein, no fiber, spikes your blood sugar, and promotes inflammation, you're fighting an uphill battle for muscle health. Conversely, if every piece of bread provides substantial protein, abundant fiber, stable blood sugar, and anti-inflammatory compounds, bread becomes a powerful ally in your muscle-building efforts. The cumulative effect over weeks and months is significant. Consider the protein contribution. 2 slices of white bread provide about 4 grams of protein. 2 slices of sprouted grain bread provide about 10 to 12 grams. That's an extra 6 to 8 grams per meal. If you eat bread twice daily, that's 12 to 16 extra grams of protein daily, just from better bread choice. Over a week, that's 84 to 112 extra grams of protein. Consider the blood sugar impact. White bread spikes blood sugar to 180 to 200 milligrams per deciliter in many people. This triggers massive insulin release, followed by a crash to possibly 70 or 80 milligrams per deciliter. This roller coaster happens multiple times daily if you eat white bread regularly. Sprouted grain or sourdough bread creates a gentle rise to perhaps 120 to 130 milligrams per deciliter, sustained for hours, with no crash. This stable blood sugar supports consistent energy, reduces cortisol release, and creates better conditions for muscle building. Consider the inflammatory impact. White bread with added sugars promotes inflammation through multiple mechanisms. The blood sugar spikes create oxidative stress. The refined starches and sugars feed inflammatory gut bacteria. The preservatives and additives disrupt the gut barrier. Chronic low-grade inflammation from poor food choices directly promotes muscle breakdown. Whole grain breads, especially fermented ones like sourdough, reduce inflammation. The fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria that produce anti-inflammatory compounds. The phytonutrients in whole grains have antioxidant properties. The stable blood sugar reduces oxidative stress. Better bread choice means less inflammation and better muscle preservation. Consider the gut health impact. Your gut microbiome influences muscle health through what scientists call the gut-muscle axis. Healthy gut bacteria reduce systemic inflammation and produce metabolites that may directly signal to muscle cells. The fiber in whole grain breads feeds these beneficial bacteria. The fermentation products in sourdough support gut health. The complete absence of fiber in white bread starves beneficial bacteria and allows problematic bacteria to dominate. Let me give you practical protocols for incorporating the best breads into your daily eating to support muscle building. Morning protocol. 2 slices of sprouted grain bread, toasted, topped with 3 scrambled eggs and sliced avocado. The bread provides 10 to 12 grams of protein. The eggs provide 18 grams. The avocado provides 2 grams plus healthy fats. Total, 30 to 32 grams of protein with sustained energy to start your day. Alternative morning. 2 slices of whole grain sourdough, toasted, with 2 tablespoons of almond butter and sliced banana. The bread provides 8 grams of protein. The almond butter provides 7 grams. Total, 15 grams of protein plus healthy fats and sustained carbohydrates. Another morning option. 1 slice of seeded whole grain bread with cottage cheese, tomato slices, and everything bagel seasoning. The bread provides 7 grams of protein. Half a cup of cottage cheese provides 14 grams. Total, 21 grams of protein in an easy, no-cook breakfast. Lunch. Protocol: sandwich on 2 slices of pumpernickel bread with tuna salad made from canned tuna mixed with Greek yogurt. The bread provides 8 grams of protein. The tuna provides 25 grams. The Greek yogurt adds 5 grams. Total, 38 grams of protein in a satisfying portable lunch. Alternative lunch: 2 slices of sprouted grain bread with hummus, roasted vegetables, and feta cheese. The bread provides 12 grams. The hummus provides 6 grams. The feta provides 4 grams. Total, 22 grams of protein, plus fiber and micronutrients from the vegetables. Dinner protocol: 1 slice of whole grain oat bread served alongside lentil soup and a side salad. The bread provides 5 grams of protein. The lentil soup provides 18 grams. The salad with nuts adds 5 grams. Total, 28 grams of protein in a warming, satisfying dinner. These protocols show how choosing optimal breads contributes meaningfully to daily protein intake, while providing sustained energy, fiber, and micronutrients that support muscle building. Now let me address combining bread with complementary protein sources for optimal muscle building. Bread, even the best whole grain breads, doesn't provide complete protein on its own. The amino acid profile is incomplete, typically lower in lysine. But when combined with other protein sources, you create complete amino acid coverage. Bread with eggs. This classic combination provides complete protein. The eggs supply lysine that bread lacks. The bread provides sustained energy that allows the egg protein to be used for muscle building rather than being burned for energy. 2 slices of sprouted grain bread with 3 eggs provides about 30 grams of complete protein. Bread with beans. This is a complete protein combination recognized in many traditional cuisines. Beans are high in lysine. Bread provides methionine that beans are lower in. Together they form complete protein. Toast topped with mashed black beans or bread served alongside lentil soup creates optimal amino acid coverage. Bread with nut butter, peanut butter, or almond butter on whole grain. Bread creates a complete protein combination. The nuts provide some amino acids that complement the bread. 2 slices of bread with 2 tablespoons of nut butter provides about 15 to 18 grams of protein with a good amino acid balance. Bread with cheese. Cheese is a complete protein. Combined with bread, you get both complete amino acids and sustained energy. A sandwich with cheese and vegetables on whole grain bread provides 20 to 25 grams of complete protein. Bread with Greek yogurt or cottage cheese. Using these high-protein dairy products as spreads or dips for bread creates complete protein combinations. The dairy provides all essential amino acids. The bread provides sustained energy and additional protein. The combination supports optimal muscle building. These combinations demonstrate traditional food wisdom. Cultures around the world have eaten bread with complementary proteins for centuries. These pairings exist because they provide complete nutrition that supports health and strength. Let me address cost considerations because bread prices vary significantly. White bread is often cheapest, $1 to $3 per loaf. This low cost is deceptive because you're getting minimal nutrition per dollar. You're buying empty calories. Basic whole wheat bread costs about $3 to $4 per loaf, slightly more than white bread but with significantly better nutrition. The extra dollar buys you more protein, much more fiber, and better blood sugar control. This is worth it. Sprouted grain bread costs about $5 to $7 per loaf. This seems expensive compared to white bread, but consider the nutrition per dollar. You're getting nearly double the protein per slice, triple the fiber, much better mineral absorption, and dramatically better blood sugar control. The extra $3 to $4 buys substantial nutritional value. Whole grain sourdough from a bakery costs about $6 to $8 per loaf. Again, expensive compared to cheap bread, but the traditional fermentation, improved digestibility, and superior nutrition justify the cost. If budget is tight, prioritize buying better bread and spending less on other, less important items. Seeded whole grain breads cost about $5 to $6 per loaf. The seeds add protein, healthy fats, and minerals. You're getting more nutrition per slice, which means better value even at higher price. The cost difference over a month is manageable for most budgets. If you eat a loaf per week, the difference between white bread at $2 and sprouted grain bread at $6 is $16 per month. This $16 buys you approximately 100 extra grams of protein per month, plus hundreds of grams of extra fiber, better blood sugar control, less inflammation, and better gut health. The value is exceptional. For seniors on very tight budgets, even basic whole wheat bread at $3 to $4 per loaf is vastly superior to white bread. Make the upgrade to at least whole wheat. If you can afford sprouted grain or sourdough, even better. But any whole grain bread is better than refined bread. Let me give you shopping guidance because bread labels can be confusing. First, ignore front-of-package marketing. Claims like made with whole grains or multigrain don't guarantee the bread is primarily whole grain. These are marketing terms designed to make you think the bread is healthy. Instead, flip the package and read the ingredient list. The first ingredient should be whole wheat flour, whole grain flour, sprouted wheat, or a specific whole grain like whole rye flour or whole oat flour. If the first ingredient is wheat flour, enriched flour, or unbleached flour, the bread is primarily refined flour regardless of what the marketing says. Second, check the fiber content on the nutrition label. A truly whole grain bread should provide at least 3 grams of fiber per slice, preferably 4 to 6 grams. If it provides less than 2 grams, it's primarily refined flour. Third, check the protein content. Whole grain breads should provide at least 4 grams of protein per slice. Sprouted grain and seeded breads should provide 5 to 8 grams. If it provides less than 3 grams, the bread is primarily refined flour or lacks meaningful protein sources. Fourth, check the sugar content. Bread shouldn't contain more than 2 grams of added sugar per slice. If it contains 3 grams or more, too much sugar has been added. Some natural sweetness from whole grains is fine, but excessive added sugars are problematic. Fifth, check the ingredient list length. Simpler is better. Good bread should contain whole grain flour, water, salt, and possibly yeast or sourdough starter, maybe some seeds. That's it. If the ingredient list is long with chemical names you don't recognize, the bread is highly processed. Armed with these guidelines, you can navigate the bread aisle confidently and choose breads that actually support your health rather than undermine it. Let me address the gluten confusion because many seniors avoid gluten thinking it's inherently unhealthy. For the approximately 1% of people with celiac disease, gluten causes serious intestinal damage. For the small percentage with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, gluten causes digestive discomfort. But for the vast majority of people, gluten is completely harmless. Gluten is simply a protein found in wheat, barley, and rye. It provides the structure that makes bread chewy and cohesive. There's nothing inherently harmful about it for most people. The problem with most bread isn't the gluten, it's the refined flour, added sugars, and lack of fiber and nutrients. If you've been avoiding gluten without a medical reason, you're likely choosing inferior breads made from refined starches. Unless you have celiac disease or confirmed sensitivity, there's no reason to avoid gluten. Choose whole grain breads with gluten for better nutrition. The gluten-free trend has been profitable for food manufacturers, but hasn't improved public health. Most people who avoid gluten don't feel better because of the absence of gluten. They feel better because they're eating less bread overall, or they've switched to whole food diets with more vegetables and less processed food. The gluten itself wasn't the problem. Now let me give you a weekly meal plan incorporating optimal breads to demonstrate sustained muscle-building nutrition. Monday breakfast, 2 slices sprouted grain toast with 3 poached eggs and avocado. 32 grams of protein. Lunch, hummus and vegetable sandwich on whole grain sourdough. 20 grams of protein. Dinner, grilled chicken with roasted vegetables and 1 slice pumpernickel. 38 grams of protein. Daily total, 90 grams protein. Tuesday breakfast, 2 slices seeded grain toast with almond butter and banana. 15 grams protein. Lunch, tuna salad on sprouted grain bread. 38 grams of protein. Dinner, lentil soup with 1 slice oat bread. 28 grams of protein. Daily total, 81 grams protein. Wednesday breakfast, cottage cheese with 1 slice sprouted grain toast and berries. 20 grams protein. Lunch, turkey and cheese on whole grain sourdough. 30 grams of protein. Dinner, salmon with sweet potato and 1 slice pumpernickel. 35 grams of protein. Daily total, 85 grams protein. Thursday breakfast, Greek yogurt with 1 slice seeded grain toast. 25 grams of protein. Lunch, black bean and cheese quesadilla on whole grain tortillas. 22 grams of protein. Dinner, baked chicken with quinoa and 1 slice oat bread. 36 grams of protein. Daily total, 83 grams protein. Friday breakfast, 2 slices whole grain sourdough with scrambled eggs and cheese. 28 grams of protein. Lunch, chickpea salad sandwich on sprouted grain bread. 25 grams of protein. Dinner, beef stir-fry over rice with 1 slice pumpernickel. 32 grams of protein. Daily total, 85 grams protein. Saturday breakfast, 2 slices oat bread with peanut butter. 17 grams of protein. Lunch, split pea soup with 1 slice seeded grain bread. 25 grams of protein. Dinner, pork chop with green beans and mashed potatoes. 1 slice sourdough. 33 grams of protein. Daily total, 75 grams protein. Sunday breakfast, 2 slices pumpernickel with cream cheese and smoked salmon. 25 grams of protein. Lunch, egg salad on sprouted grain bread. 25 grams of protein. Dinner, roasted chicken with vegetables and 1 slice oat bread. 35 grams of protein. Daily total, 85 grams protein. This weekly plan shows protein intake ranging from 75 to 90 grams daily, all well above the minimum for muscle building. The best breads appear multiple times, contributing meaningfully to both protein intake and sustained energy, while keeping blood sugar stable. The conclusion is direct: sprouted grain bread, whole grain sourdough, pumpernickel, seeded whole grain bread, and whole grain oat bread provide protein, fiber, stable blood sugar, and nutrients that support muscle building, while white bread, fake wheat bread, enriched flour bread, high sugar bread, and refined starch gluten-free breads spike blood sugar, promote inflammation, and provide minimal nutrition that actively works against muscle health.